I wanted to talk to you a little bit about stand-up because obviously you have this comedy special that will be coming out. I understand just kind of stand-up in general more recently has been something you've really almost developed unexpected joy in. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, recently, as far as like maybe the last 15, 20 years or something, like 15 years ago maybe is when I really started touring again, you know? But that is recently, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, because I mean, I stopped doing stand-up for a long time. I started doing stand-up when I was 16 years old. That was sort of my first sort of toe in the water of show business, right? I was growing up in Ottawa, Canada, and there was a comedy club called Yuck Yucks, and I heard about this guy Norm Macdonald, who was hilarious, and he was not famous yet, and he's from Ottawa, and I would go down to watch him, and then I heard there was, amateur night, and I began doing stand-up when I was in high school. It was a different world. There was no internet. It was a completely exciting thing to be able to go to a bar, right? They had a restaurant license, so we could go as a performer. We were allowed to go. I did well the first night, but then the next time I went, I bombed. It was this. I find that happens a lot with stand-up. Sometimes people get on stage for their very first time and they'll do great because they're nervous, and the crowd, I think, senses that sort of naivety and innocence and wants to support them and help them. But then the second time you get up, if you did well the first time, now you've got sort of a false sense of security and confidence, so then you get up and you just eat.
Describe the adrenaline rush you get from going on stage.
Doing stand-up becomes your life to a certain extent. Like, I'm touring all through the U.S. this year and Canada, and I know in my head now, I'm already anticipating being on stage in Austin, Texas at the end of January. In my head, I'm thinking, oh yeah, at the end of January, I'm going down to Comedy Mothership doing 5 shows in Austin, Texas. So that's in my head right now.
Is there anxiety connected to the anticipation?
I think when I was younger, I would have called it anxiety. I think that I've gotten better at harnessing my moods and my energy in a way that I'm not sort of driven completely crazy by it. Also, I think living out here in the country is nice. It kind of is a nice reset to go ride the mule through the woods. It helps me relax, Yeah. And so what happens, that adrenaline rush, each time you get to your show, you get up on stage and you get that first laugh, and then you have a great time, and you have this celebratory event with people who are there to have fun, who've been watching you for my whole life a lot of times, and it's a real kind of a beautiful thing. And then you finish the show and it's just like an exhale, a release, a relief. Oh, we just had a great show, and that one's done. And now on to the next show, and then the cycle starts again. You start to get a little on tour. It's interesting. I sort of find like as the day progresses, you start to feel the sort of little healthy nerves building up, and then you get up on stage and boom, it's a release. That's why you kind of, you got to learn to kind of harness and channel it properly, because it's exciting, doing stand-up every night, but then you have this huge adrenaline rush. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, you can't get to sleep, you can kind of lose it pretty easily if you're not careful. So.
And you said you've cut back on drinking because you've recognized it negatively impacts.
When did I say that?
Did I tell you that? You said it somewhere that you've cut back on drinking because
you do research on things.
We try. I
didn't even know I said that.
Because it negatively impacts the mind. What was involved in getting out of that place, or that cycle?
Hangovers get a lot worse when you get older. And that was probably, I think the body is pretty intelligent in that way, and it does tell you when things are going too far. I never really looked at it like I had a drinking problem, but I think as I got older, it became a little less cute. Honestly, the thing that really bothered me about it most wasn't the health concerns. It was that I was not as effective on stage. It was frustrating, and the sort of whole adrenaline rush that you get from stand-up is dampened by alcohol. You know, you get up on stage and you perform, and then you have a great set, and you worked out a bunch of new bits on stage, and then after the show you go out and have a bunch of shots of whiskey, and then you wake up in the morning hungover. You don't remember what happened the night before. Your mind is like, or if you're still a little groggy from the night before and you get up on stage, your mind's not operating at the same kind of rhythm. Not only are you not remembering what you wanted to say precisely, but you're also not recalling and recollecting things the next day of what you did. And so your whole sort of, speed of kind of improvement kind of slows down. I don't want to sound like I'm not having fun on the road. I do like to have a beer, and I still drink. I'm not, but I schedule it, around like, okay, I got a few days off. Okay, we'll get hammered tonight,
Was there a moment you recognized that though?
There's been a few moments of realization. I think there's nothing worse than not feeling good when you're on stage. Nothing worse. That's the worst feeling for me. So, in the early years of touring where it was new and exciting, oh my God, I'm in, Austin, Texas, or I'm in, some city, Chicago, let's go out after the show. And your adrenaline's up, you go out after the show, and on Friday night, right? And then Saturday night, you got 2 shows, right? And you're on stage, just like, oh, I'm not. And you get off stage and you go, I still had a great set and everybody laughed and it was fun. But I know that it would have been more fun for me, at least, if I was just completely like firing on all sort of cylinders, And I actually really noticed it once when I decided, okay, I'm going to quit drinking for a while, and I didn't drink for a couple of months. And I noticed sort of my speed of even improvising and pulling random ideas on stage while doing crowd work out of thin air just became dramatically more pronounced. And
really,
I really, it was to me, it was the moment where I noticed how much alcohol affects you. I'm not saying I'm not talking about drinking while you're on stage. I'm talking about like having 2 beers the night before the show will affect you. Your mind is operating so fast. You're pulling ideas. You're talking to a crowd. You got to keep a rhythm going. You have a set of material and jokes, and you're trying to hit this precise rhythm that you're working on and you're developing, and you feel. It's like music. I make music, so you can feel, oh, I'm a little behind the beat here, which is cool in music, but not necessarily cool in stand-up. And that was a moment of realization, and that was when I stopped basically drinking before I went on stage, and then after a few months, I decided I was going to not drink for 24 hours before I go on stage. So that's pretty much where I am now. I try not to have a drink within 24 hours of going on stage. And when you're touring all the time, you're performing sometimes 4 or 5 days a week. That's pretty good for your health, because
right.
Now I only drink on the weekends,
Right, and when
I make up for lost time on the weekends, though. Actually, or on a Monday night. Nothing like getting hammered on a Monday night.
Okay, what's the
you do stand up all on the weekends, so you go Monday night's your night off. You go and get loaded.
What's the Monday
you
night?
Go to a Jack in the Box, sit in the parking lot in the curb, and get loaded. No, I don't know. I'm actually trying not to drink too much. It's just not as much fun as. I don't want to spend too much time talking about not drinking because I'm not really, like I said, I don't think it's ever been a severe problem for me. It's just something that I've found that I'm getting a lot more enjoyment out of life, just kind of scaling back a little bit on that.
And what's interesting is I wasn't even planning to ask about it, but I think the reason I did was it's clearly something that is at least occasionally on your mind. And I also get when your goal is to make the most of your talent, even not considering the health aspect.
Absolutely,
You want to constantly tweak to figure out how to continue that progression.
If you're on stage in front of 1,000 people and you're telling jokes for an hour and a half or so, and then you get off stage and you think, oh man, that wasn't as good as it could have been, it's the worst feeling in the world. It's the worst feeling in the world, and I don't want to ever have to feel that.